So I kind of bought myself a full-time job, in essence, when we bought the restaurant. During escrow, I got to go in for the 30 to 35-ish days that we were in escrow and learn about the business and learn what I could do to improve it before I even stepped foot in the door.
That was Brian Oberg from CASK Strength Bar and Kitchen. Brian owns the Iron Lily Event Center, venue located over on Golden State Highway, and also owns CASK Strength Bar and Kitchen, restaurant down on 19th Street in downtown Bakersfield. In today's show, we discuss the Iron Lily Event Center and what he thinks it's best used for. And then later in the show, we talk about the restaurant CASK Strength Bar and Kitchen. And then be sure and stay tuned to hear about both the Whiskey Club as well as the Tequila Club that Brian hosts every single week down at CASK Strength Bar and Kitchen.
Welcome back to the Our 2 Cents podcast, the show where your local professionals sit down with an array of guests to hear their story and impart some wisdom for both business and life-improving skills. This is your place to hear business and community leaders discuss relevant topics that matter to you.
And welcome to the show today. I am John Duffield, a Local Certified Public Accountant, and I'm your host today. I am here with Brian Oberg, who, amongst other things, is the owner of the CASK Strength Bar and Kitchen. Brian has a very full life and is so busy. He's got a full resume. I'm excited to be able to discuss a number of those things. Before we get into today's episode, I would like to encourage our listeners to follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Brian, we're happy to have you here with us today. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to talk to you about it. You got a lot of different things that you've been doing in your life, and I'm excited about that. I like that stuff, and I run and manage one business and do it poorly, a lot of times, and so I'm amazed by guys like you that can juggle and do so many different things. So I appreciate that. We got a lot of topics to cover today. Before we do, tell me what was your first business venture? What'd you do? How'd you get started? And what was the impetus for that?
My first business venture was a photography business. I did that for probably about 6 or 7 years, had a business partner, went through the whole gamut of starting the business up through, I guess, breaking up of the business to go in a different direction.
Yep.
I didn't necessarily...
Breaking up that partnership in effect.
It got to a thing where I was working a lot of hours a day, and I really just kind of lost the passion for it and needed to go in a different direction in my life for my own self-sanity.
Sure.
So I decided for me that it was best that I went in a different direction. And so we ended up splitting up the business.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that because you own a restaurant now, by the way. And, I don't know what business you work more hours in than a restaurant. So.
Yeah, no, it definitely took away from the photography. I haven't really shot much in probably over 5 years. I think it's been about 5 years since I shot my last wedding.
So photography was your passion thing, right? And started that kind of passion project.
Yeah, it all kind of had logical progression. I mean, people think, okay, so you're a wedding photographer and now all of a sudden you're running a restaurant. How does that work? You have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. None of this makes any sense.
Right.
So I went to school. I was going to school while we did the photography business. From the photography business, I got the opportunity to purchase a wedding venue at pennies on the dollar, basically. So we went in and develop the wedding venue with the concept of maybe I'll be the photographer at the wedding venue, make extra money by promoting myself as the main photographer for the events at the venue.
I see. Okay.
And then I found out how much work was involved in running the venue, and also that there was a need to make sure the bar was controlled. I didn't want people coming in, bringing in their own liquor and having issues with minors obtaining liquor, people being overserved, and then leaving my building and getting into car accidents because they were just hammered.
Sure.
So I went in the direction of obtaining a liquor license. The only way to do that in the state of California is to have a physical brick and mortar restaurant. So we obtained the liquor license when we bought the mark. The mark then...
that's a pretty bold and big way to go get a liquor license is to buy the mark, is it not?
No, it absolutely is. I really love the real estate. I love the downtown area. Our venue is just outside of downtown. The restaurant is beautiful. Me and my wife actually took our wedding photos right outside of the mark when it was the mark before we obtained it. We took our pictures right outside up against the brick wall right before it was redone. Actually, I don't think it was the Mark at that point because that would have been 2008. It would have been somewhere in the transition between Gooselini's, Victor Victoria's, and then into the Mark. But we did take and utilize that space, and I thought it just kind of came full circle when we purchased the building because we had taken those pictures. I went back and showed my wife the pictures, and it was pretty cool to see what it looked like before. Now we obviously know what it looks like now.
Sure.
And it's ever changing. That's part of the projects that we're involved in right now is we're doing renovations to that building, and we will be in the upcoming weeks developing a third unit down there. So currently we have Zama in as a tenant.
Okay.
I have my spot where Cask Strength Whiskey Bar is, and then we'll be bringing a third tenant in.
Tell me about buying that liquor license and then that wedding venue. First of all, where did you spend most of your time? I mean, once you bought the liquor license, were you spending all your time on the wedding venue, or what was the Mark, or kind of equally both?
So I kind of bought myself a full-time job in essence when we bought the restaurant. During escrow, I got to go in for the 30 to 35-ish days that we were in escrow and learn about the business and learn what I could do to improve it before I even stepped foot in the door. On day one, I could start rolling with changes. No, I had no restaurant experience before we even bought it. Wow. I had experience running my business as a photography venue. I had some experience setting up the wedding venue because we kind of had to set that up from the ground up.
Right.
It was a event space before we bought it. It was called Fleur de Lis. But they got shut down for not having fire sprinklers. So there was health and safety issues that had the building red tagged from the city. So it took us 2 years of construction, cutting through red tape, ADA upgrades, the whole 9 yards, well over $1 million sunk into the project on top of purchase price.
Wow.
To be able to get it up to code and to get it to be everything it needed to be in order to open.
Wow.
And it's still an ever-changing process. I mean, we're still spending money adding lights and up lights and all kinds of different things all the time. I bought new chairs this last year so that we would have a brown set of chairs and a white set of chairs.
Yep. So tell us about that wedding venue, and then tell us about the restaurant, right? And so before we started this recording, you and I were talking about the restaurant and how much time you spend there. So it sounds like you spend most of your time at the restaurant as opposed to at the wedding venue. But tell us about the wedding venue and how that works.
The wedding venue, it's nice because it's a little bit more part-time. Like if that was my sole and only thing, it would be part-time. Obviously, because I'm spending so much time at the restaurant, I don't have as much time to devote to the venue as I could to make it as large and as big and as quickly as I would like for it to grow. Most events book a year or so out in advance. So I'm still now, because we got our condition of operation on March 7th. And then March 17th of 2020 was COVID. So we refunded $50,000 in contracts in the first week we were open.
Wow.
And then we basically had no income for the first year and a half because everything books a year out. We had COVID. We ran through 2 years of COVID before a year and a half or so before we actually started seeing people wanting to book events. And then that was a year out. So we're finally just now in this spring season getting to somewhat of a footing underneath us at the venue. So it has been a little bit more part-time than full-time at the venue, but a typical day down at the venue is not much. We go down there after an event, clean up, make sure everything's taken care of, reset for the next event. We'll go in on a Wednesday, clean all the floors, make sure the bathrooms are cleaned up, spend 4 to 6 hours making sure the venue's turned back over for the next event.
Yep.
And then the actual event day and the setup day, we can spend anywhere from 4 to 6 hours beforehand. And then we'll spend 8 to 10 hours on event day. On any single event, we're not spending more than 20 hours or so time in an entire week. So there's not a ton of time involved in putting an event together at the venue on our end.
Sure.
For the customer, obviously, there's a lot more time that they're spending putting together all the details, the DJ, the photographer, the florist, everything that goes into whatever event they're planning.
Yeah. Tell us the name of the venue, where it's located, and then tell us, what you think that venue's perfect for. That if we have a listener who and you were doing a sales pitch, who's that venue perfect for?
Sure. So it's called Iron Lily Venue. It's 424 24th Street downtown. So it's just past the Garza Circle, kind of where 24th Street, Golden State Highway curves around to Union and 24th.
Right.
So it's down in that area. It's a little bit more of an industrial area. So from the outside, it looks like a very large stucco wrapped building. Once you get inside, though, it's been completely redone. Up above the ceiling, you get like the solid wood beams that are probably about 10 inches, 12 inches wide by 14 inches thick. They're beautiful wood beams. You can see them out in the warehouse and the rafters and stuff, but everything inside is a lot more finished.
Yeah,
So,
I've been in the building, and it's beautiful. You guys have done a great job with it.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, especially the room that you're talking about. That's our entertainment room. I got to put my own style and desires and my own kind of design work into that building or into that specific room. Yep. Because when I'm booking events, that space is kind of what sets our venue apart. When you're looking at booking an event, most of the events that we book, to go back to your question, is quinceas and weddings. We'll book sometimes corporate events. We do a lot of stuff like trainings, that kind of thing on weekdays. But most of what we're booking is weekends. We're booking quinceas and we're booking weddings. And with those, with the design and the idea and the concept that I had in mind when I started the place was wedding venues in town. You go to an event, you go to a wedding, people dance around in a circle with a DJ, and grandma and grandpa, aunt and uncle, elderly kind of parents, grandparents, relatives, they don't stick around until 10, 11 o'clock at night, till the end of the night. They tend to leave because there's not much to do. It's a loud environment. It's not your typical setting, even though that's typical for what weddings are. It's not your typical setting for what you would like to have as a family interaction. So when we developed the entertainment room, the concept in mind was to make something that would be a social interaction that's a normal aspect of what a person would want in a normal family gathering. So we have 2 pool tables. I have a ping pong table. I have a shuffleboard, and there's games and entertainment aspect that people would normally do in an everyday setting with their family. Sure. So that if Uncle Joe wants to play pool with his nephew, he can do that at the event center at the wedding, and you can make those memories instead of Uncle Joe sitting at the table in the corner being bored out of his mind because he doesn't want to go dance and it's loud, and then he takes off and leaves at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night after the cake's cut.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I've been at that wedding where that happened. And even my own parents at my oldest son's wedding, they were there for a while, and they're like, hey, this is getting a little too crazy for us, and, music's too loud, and we're not going to dance. And so, they were one of the early outs, if you will. So that not that real place to socialize or do those things. So kind of a bold move on your part to go buy, the mark to get a liquor license to be able to open up the Iron Lily venue. And so you kind of you had both of those going at the same time then in reality?
In essence, yeah. We bought the restaurant to suffice that liquor portion. And that's when we still were under construction to get our C of O with the city, because we had a lot of red tape to cut through, because it was not only the city of Bakersfield, but it was also the fire department.
Right.
So there was a lot of stuff to go through. It took 2 to 2.5 years just to get through everything, to make sure that everything was the way it needed to be. And during that time, we saw the realization and the opportunity to jump on board. I really like the real estate of the Mark downtown. I love the downtown area. The building itself, the brick underneath, all that stucco is beautiful. So that's one of the cool things about the new unit that we're going to be developing in the next couple weeks, that we're going to take to market as an open real estate. It'll be a new restaurant space that'll be available to whoever it is that's opening a restaurant that wants to come in. They can already have a restaurant. I think it would be awesome to get a brewery downtown. We have second phase, but that's a little bit further away from the main core of downtown. I would love to see somebody like Crusader come in and open a spot downtown, or Lengthwise even. The building's plenty big enough for what Lengthwise does, but to see a cool like local brewery that wants to come in and open a downtown spot, I think would be awesome. It would fit right in with what we have going on.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously I'm open to whatever kind of tenant. I've had talks already with a pizza place, a sushi place. There's been a couple different tenants that have walked the space with me, but it's not anywhere near the point right now that it needs to be in order to really have a vision for some people.
You said that entrance to that is going to be facing the west side, so basically facing what is the Padre, right?
Correct, yeah. So it'll be on the corner of 19th and H. The address will be 19th Street still, but the main door will be off of H Street. We'll be putting in a concrete patio outside, kind of like what we did in front of our unit. And then there'll be that concrete patio. There will also be, we're going to take out the archways. So back in the 20s, well, when the building was built, originally it was built as a horse stable, and they used it for the fire department, I believe, for a number of years in the late 1900s, or in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It was used as a horse stable for the fire department, I believe. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I've seen some of the details of the horse stable. I haven't seen the fire department stuff specifically, but that's just the rumors that I've heard from talking to people in the local Kern County pages and groups and stuff. So we're going to open, there used to be 5 archways. One of the archways was, I guess, destroyed or kind of taken apart when they made that corner at the corner of 19th and H. That used to be like a little entryway to what was a massage day spa at some point. When we did our remodel of the place, we ripped all of that stuff out and found the exterior brick in decent condition, but from the interior portion of it. So we could see the brick inside of that unit. So what's similar to what happened with 1800, when they started taking 1800, that building apart, they were able to see the interior brick and everything. It's going to be a very similar concept to what 1800 looks like on the inside.
Okay, good. Yeah, beautiful building. So so you dive into the restaurant, which was the Mark. How long did you leave it the Mark before you changed the name?
It was the Mark from when I bought it. Sometime in, I think, 2017 through 2020 when COVID happened. I ran it for probably about 2 years as the Mark. We had turned everything around, got it to where it needed to be financially as a business. There was some improvements that we had to make. Like when I took the place over, I think they were pouring over 60 bottles of wine by the glass, and we were pouring out 20 something bottles of wine every single night. And I looked through the program and was like, this gets opened and then it gets one glass poured out of it and it never gets opened, and then you open a new bottle a month later. So we pulled off and pared that list down to, I think, 27-ish. So I took off almost 2/3 of it. And that alone saved almost $7,000 a month. And so
in wine cost.
in wine, that was just getting poured down the drain. Yeah. I mean, obviously you can use it for cooking, but there was so much of it that we didn't even do that. It never even made it to that. It was one of those things that there was so much to learn, not knowing anything about the industry, but knowing about business, that I can look at it and go, okay, where are we losing money?
Sure.
How do we fix that? Let's move forward with fixing that and creating a solution.
Yeah, it's odd that the prior owner didn't figure that part out, right?
It was owned by 3 doctors. They had management running it. The Mark was ran by a plethora of local people. I don't want to necessarily name drop, but there was three or four big name people that ran restaurants and stuff in town that they hired to come in to run that place and work on it and do and make changes to the business in order to turn profits on the business. And then eventually they decided that they were going to just split ways, I assume. I can't put words in their mouth. I don't know why they ended up wanting to sell. Yeah. But it was a fortunate event for me.
Because they weren't making any money, right?
I'm not saying that they weren't.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Honestly, we don't know that, but I mean, when you make an observation like that you're going to save $7,000 a month in wine cost, right? Mm-hmm. because of waste,
yeah,
because of spoilage from that, then obviously they were going to bear that cost. And I'm a CPA. I look at financial statements all day long. $84,000 a year. In a local restaurant, that's a lot of additional waste, right? A lot of additional cost, and I don't know of a lot of restaurants that can afford to waste that amount of, can have.
Well, and to go back to make that point a little bit more clear, it's not $7,000 worth of loss that was getting poured out. It's $7,000 worth of potential profit that was being missed.
Revenues.
Now, yeah, and obviously there is some waste involved in it. When you open a bottle of wine, if you pay $20 for that bottle of wine, you're going to be pouring your first glass, hopefully at around the $20 price if it's set up right. If it's not set up right, you're pouring that first glass at like a $14 price range. So even if you only pour one glass, you're going to lose $6 on that bottle. So I'm talking more about the potential of the additional, $30 to $35 that you would be making as part of that $7,000, not necessarily because the loss on it's only $4 or so, depending on how everything was set up.
No, listen, I think that's fantastic. It's big that you recognize that, right, and start making those changes as a business owner to go put those things in place. You made a comment earlier, and this was before we started the podcast, that you said something to the effect of, somebody could honestly make more money as a landlord than they could as a restaurant owner.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was my intention when I bought that building. Looking at the building and it could be split into 4 units. Currently, it's going to be split into 3. Zama taking the kitchen and the bar area that the Mark used to have. The banquet area and the office area is what I have. And then the new unit will be what was that upstairs banquet room, or back in the day, a hot yoga studio, and the storage space that was over there. So there'll be an almost 5,000 square feet with a capacity of about 275 people. And that'll be what that new restaurant is. So it has this really cool upstairs area that looks down over the top of the rest of the restaurant. It's got a nice big kitchen in the back. The vent hood's already in. We just need to install it. Probably here in about a month or two, probably we're in May right now. So by midsummer, it'll start to look like something that people will be interested in and that people will want to come down and put some money into here in town.
Interesting. So it sounds to me like you're interested in a real estate aspect more than you are anything else.
That's high on my priority list right now, is to find a tenant to suffice that space, another restaurant, brewery, something along those lines to come in and take that space over, start developing. There's going to be a couple $100,000 worth of money that needs to be put into the space. And whether that's the new tenant coming in and looking at reduced rents, or if it's me putting a little bit more money into the building, getting it to a point that the tenant has a vanilla shell that they can then take and customize. I'm ready for anything and everything. We got a good grant from the city, which is what we're going to be utilizing to take the archways and install those. We'll do that concrete finish that I have across the front of the building. So the whole side of the building facing H Street will have that concrete finish. We'll have those 3. We're going to put in 3 of those 5 archways. There'll be nice big glass windows. They're almost 20 foot tall by about 18 foot wide. And then we're gonna have the back area painted where the murals are. We were going to continue that concrete finish across the back, but with all the tagging and stuff that we're having locally, they have to pressure wash it when the city comes in, and it's going to be a lot easier to potentially match paint than it is because it's in the back alley. Sure. Now, we did install a bunch of bright daylight white LED lights in the back, and that entire alley now, from my end all the way down to thrift shop that's down there, that entire alley is lit up like daytime all the way through the night now. So it's kind of nice if people are passing through, like if they're down at Jerry's Pizza and they're passing through the Padre, they can walk through that alley and there's not anything that you can't see.
Don't need to worry about it, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about, buying the Mark. And by the way, I'm going to say this. So I'm the guy that always wanted to own a restaurant, for the record. And so tell me about that transition from the Mark to CASK Strength, and a little bit of a change in focus there from that. And then, you've done a couple of things. You've got a couple of clubs, a whiskey club and a tequila tasting club. So tell us about the restaurant that is now CASK Strength and those clubs.
Sure. So what we had was the Mark. When COVID happened, we started to try to do takeout. Well, fine dining with takeout and COVID, it was hit and miss. We'd have a Friday night where we would do like $800, $1,000 in sales. Then we would have a Tuesday where we would do $1,200 in sales. And then the following Friday, we would do less than 200. And so it was very, very hit and miss. It had a lot to do with how much word we got out, how much advertising we put in. And then that was in March. So come May, June, when it starts to get 100 degrees in Bakersfield, we have to turn those air conditioners on. The walk-ins alone cost over $2,000 to keep on, just electricity-wise. It got to the point where there was nothing that we could do to keep that portion open. So alcohol beverage control allowed us to start selling full bottles to help kind of reduce inventory and help bring money in to keep restaurants able to pay the rent, able to pay the bills. Right. So during that, we started selling the full bottles, what we had. And right before, we started to really up our whiskey selection at the Mark. And what happened was a lot of the people who started coming in for the whiskey tastings saw what we were doing with the full bottle sales. And I was basically selling all of my inventory off at cost plus 10% in order to cover my credit card charges and just release the inventory.
Sure.
And so I got a lot of customers that started coming in that were very happy because they were getting good prices, stuff that, was cheaper than it was at a liquor store, cheaper than it was at a grocery store even. So they were able to come in, they were able to pick up dinner, and they were able to pick up, a case of whiskey or a case of vodka or whatever it was. And so I started developing a loyal customer base, and I saw the opportunity there to then split the building up into what I wanted it to be, but also to downsize and get away from fine dining and what it was and move towards something on a smaller scale, which is kind of what I saw happening in restaurants. I mean, that building is 11,000 square feet. For one restaurant to utilize 11,000 square feet, you're talking 50 to 70 staff. You're talking, hundreds. It would be, the bank account would move $20,000, $30,000 in a weekend,
Sure.
just between expenses going out, money coming in. It would a normal weekend, there'd be a $30,000 fluctuation in an account. And that's a lot when you're just jumping into a business to see, $30,000 go in and out. I'm like, that's a car payment. Like that's a car. So what I wanted to do was kind of scale down. And I saw that as potentially a direction that things were going to be moving anyway in the industry. And I've been going to the bar and restaurant expos and some of the different stuff and watching, and you see places like Hooters that are closing down larger scale things. And even last year at the restaurant expo, they were talking about how they don't ever want to build anything that has a capacity of more than 200 people anymore, because even though it's cool to have a packed house with hundreds of people, it's not something that's necessarily profitable, because on a Tuesday afternoon, you might only have 50 people in there, and you're conditioning and dealing with the entirety of a space that's not something that is profitable
Sure.
on those days.
Sure.
So,
Brian, is that because we've kind of gone to this takeout model because of COVID, you think? To people aren't getting out, going to those full service restaurants as much anymore?
I don't know that the full service restaurant portion of it is a thing from COVID. I think that the fine dining aspect of things is slowing down a lot across just the entire United States, not just across Bakersfield. Bakersfield hasn't always been a real big on fine dining anyway. It's more of a hometown, more of a, good old boy, steak and potatoes. That's what Bakersfield is. That's the crowd that we've historically been. Now, there is a lot of movement in less ag and less oil and less of that meat and potatoes, and a little bit more of a different type of crowd coming into what Bakersfield used to be. It's growing exponentially. A lot of people are moving in from LA down south and up north. So it's becoming quite a bit larger of a customer pool. So it is a little bit different. I can see it being a little bit less meat and potatoes crowd here in town over the last 10 years as it used to be. Mm-hmm. But I think that fine dining in and of itself in Bakersfield hasn't really been a big thing. And I think that going towards something more like not necessarily a quick service food, but feel good foods. I think that's kind of more of a direction of what our town is looking for now. So when we were dealing with CASK and the concept of it, I wanted something that was under 50 people. You'd come in on a Friday night and it can be packed. You come in on a Tuesday and there's 25 people and it doesn't look dead. You put 25 people inside of what the mark was and it looks like a ghost town. So your capacity at CASK strength is 50? 45.
45, okay.
45 or 48. I don't remember what the sign says. It's somewhere, it's 45, 48, something like that. But to have something that's quite a bit smaller is a lot more personable. When somebody walks in the door at my restaurant, my staff know they have to turn, they have to greet that person walking in the door, let them know if it's open seating, have a seat where you guys would like, we'll be with you in a minute, QR code on the table for the menu. And it can create a lot more friendly environment when we're a little bit closer together and it's not as spread out, especially when it's busy, but even more so when it's not busy, because you can still see a person come in. You can still interact with that person from anywhere in the restaurant. You can see the entirety of the restaurant.
No, it makes sense. So tell us about the whiskey tasting club and the tequila club.
Sure. So we have a couple different clubs. We have our whiskey clubs. So we have our bottle clubs, which we'll still have for a while. Those are going to be going up to $80 a month here pretty soon. Currently it's at $70. And
what does somebody get for that?
So once a month we have a club meeting. My Thursday club is full. It's been full since we opened the restaurant because we started it during COVID. We opened the restaurant up, and basically what it is for $70 a month, once a month, you'd be coming in. We have a club meeting. We're going to taste whatever it is that we're pouring. So this coming month, we're going to be doing a barrel select. We did a barrel select of Old Forester single barrel strength. We only got 120 bottles out of our barrel. So essentially it's all going to go to Whiskey Club. I have almost 90 members in Whiskey Club. So there's 90 bottles for that. The panel that picked the bottles, that specific barrel, they'll get first crack at a couple bottles extra. Then we have a couple different clubs that these pours will go to so people can try it. I have a locker club and I have a weekly tasting club. I'll get to those in a second. But the bottle club, you come in, they'll get a pour of the Old Forester barrel strength, so they'll get to try it. I kind of have this guarantee with everybody, hey, you're going to love what we put out. If you don't love what we put out, I have alternate drops. I have a couple different other items that, or you can take one of our previous drops if we still have extra bottles of it. So what we do is we hand select, me and my buddy Matt, we hand select what we're going to put into the club drop because we're moving, anywhere from 75 to 90 bottles at a time to allow people to get the best thing that they can get for their money.
Sure. So
we're doing a barrel pick of Old Forester this time, which normally the retail value on that bottle is like $89, $90, something like that. So I know on this specific one, I'm not making very much money, sure, but it's more of a thing of this is the best bottle that I can get at the selection and the pricing that I can get. It's a very sought after bottle. So we're going to get that put out in the Whiskey Club, and bottles like that get people really attracted to the Whiskey Club. They get them fired up and excited for it. Sure. Some months aren't as good as others. I mean, I'm going to get the best thing that I can get. Sometimes the distributors ask us to move extra products so we can get the good bottles. So there will be months that and not to say it's a bad product by any means, but I'll go, hey, I have Michter's. So we're going to do 2 bottles of Michter's because the price point on them is only like $40 at the store, and the club's paying $80 or $70. So the price point's $80 for 2 bottles, but I'm going to let you taste all 4 of the entire Michter's line. They have bourbon, they have rye, they have an American whiskey, and they have a sour mash. So then you can learn about the whiskey, figure out what it is that you like, and then you get to taste all 4 of them, and you're like, hey, I want that one and I want that one. So you get to pick 2 bottles.
That's awesome.
So sometimes it'll be 2 bottles. Sometimes it'll be 1 bottle. Sometimes I get really lucky and get allocated bottles, and I can get 90 of them just because there's plenty in inventory and it's not blocked. It's not reserved. So I'll jump on that when I can to make sure that everybody gets the best bottle that they can get for the price point. So that's one of the clubs. It's a $70 bottle club. Like I said, it will be going up to 80 probably in June because I'm getting a hold of really good bottles, and some of them, the cost on the bottle is $70. Sure. So I have to offset that by the next month. They only get $60 worth of cost out of me, right, or $55, and it's not as good, but I know that it's getting made up in a different bottle somewhere.
Yeah. Do you find that a lot of those club members are then coming back with their wife for dinner or whatever?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We have some of our club members are in multiple clubs with us. We have a couple of them that are they'll join the weekly tasting club, and then they come in every week. And then they're there on a bottle club night, and they're like, hey, wait a minute, what's this? What's going on here? Or they'll see it on the TV and go, hey, what's the bottle club? And then they join the bottle club, and then they have bottles that they're getting from me. And then some of them are like, well, I don't want to take all these bottles home because I don't want my wife to kill me. Right. Let me get a locker. So they get a storage locker down there, right, and they join the locker club. So then they're in the weekly tasting club, the bottle club, and the locker club. So it's kind of fun. I have some customers that are in multiple clubs, and it creates a really a loyal customer base that we get to know everybody by name. We know as soon as they walk in the door, we know what they want. We know what they're going to drink. So it creates a really friendly environment.
Sure. No, it sounds like it does. It sounds like you've been really creative, with your vision and the different things that you've done to bring those customers in and make it a lot of fun for that customer, but make it good for you at the same time.
One of the best ideas, and what I encourage other business owners to do, is look for that recurring income when you can get it. So that's what we do with our clubs is, I mean, everything's on auto pay. People put their credit card on file. I have a form they fill out. So every single month on the first of the month, our weekly tasting club and our locker club both get auto charged to their cards. And then on the 8th, the whiskey club, the bottle club gets charged. So I'll talk a little bit about the tasting club because I've mentioned that a couple of times. The weekly tasting club, I determine what the pours are going to be for the month. And then we go through and you get a 2-ounce pour. It's only $20. So think of it like a gym membership almost, this one.
Sure.
If you use it, it's definitely worth it.
Sure.
If you don't use it, not so worth it. Just like a gym membership.
Sure.
I mean, you're paying $20 a month, so it's not a high entry price point, and you're getting a 2-ounce pour every single week. Some months like this month have 5 pours in the month. So essentially you're paying $4 a pour or $5 a pour for your pours for the month, but you're getting a full 2-ounce pour. And I'm not pouring well stuff. So you're getting well pricing for it. It depends.
So what's the format for that club? What are you doing? So somebody just comes in on their own individually, or is it part of it's a Tuesday night thing, or what's the actual format?
It could be Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. So they're allowed to come in any day. We call it Whiskey of the Week.
Okay.
So it's kind of like going down and getting your whiskey pour of the week. Like back in the day, during Prohibition, you could go in and get your prescription of whiskey, your monthly allotment of whiskey. Right. We're doing it weekly, and you can come in, you pay the $20 auto charge. You come in Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, anytime we're open, 4:30 to 9 o'clock. And you get your pour. A lot of guys will get groups of friends together, and it'll be their social night where they get to hang out with their friends. Yep. I have some couples that are in my whiskey club, and they'll both come in. And the tequila club is exactly the same concept, except it's $25 a month. And the nice part about that is if she loves tequila and he loves whiskey, they both come down together and they both get what they want instead of her going, well, I'm just going to have a glass of wine or a water or whatever. So $20 a month, you get to join the whiskey club. I determine what the pours are. So like the pour this week that we're currently in is Bardstown Discovery. It's a $140 bottle. So, and you're getting a pour of it for $5, essentially $4, because we're in a 5-week month. So I don't make money on these bottles. Where I break even instead of losing money, because I'm not going to do anything to lose money. I'm not going to, even though it's a really good deal, I'm still not running it as a loss leader. I suppose it kind of is, I guess, in terms. But when I have, a third of the people not show up, then I'm taking that $5 and applying it evenly across the board to everybody else's pours. Sure. So those people that aren't showing up and aren't utilizing it are making it worth it for the people that do show up.
Brian, it's just like my gym membership.
I mean, it really, in essence, it is. Yeah.
Right.
So people come in, they get to use it, they get their pours. We pour it any way they want it. So if you like neat pours, you're getting 2 ounces. And this is kind of one of the things that's a learning aspect for people when they're trying new whiskeys. You're getting to try 5 new whiskeys a month or 4 new whiskeys a month. If you stick with the program, after 2 years, you'll try over 100 different whiskeys. And I try to split it up where I put a rye in each month, or a sour mash and a bourbon or an American whiskey. So you're not drinking the same thing. And it's all whiskey though. I'm not putting in scotch necessarily. I try to mix in some Canadian stuff. Every now and then I'll put something Japanese in, but you're talking once a quarter maybe, just because I want to let people try off different palates. I've stayed away from putting scotch in because most of my customers that are joining it for the Kentucky American bourbons, not necessarily scotch. And I found that in doing this, I can put out some pretty decent stuff that people would really like to try, but they don't know that they want. Because I can get some more obscure stuff and let people try it. And I found that, certain people, or a majority of people even, will have a palate for something that I don't even care for myself. But it's interesting. Yeah. And that's just it. That's the thing about whiskey, is everyone has their own opinion and their own palate. So something that could be really good to me is not good to you.
Sure.
or vice versa.
No, listen, I think that's fantastic. Are all the clubs full? You said one of them at least.
So my Thursday bottle club is full. I have a Tuesday bottle club, which is not full yet. I think I have about 10 spaces left in that. The Thursday bottle club has a wait list on it. The Tuesday one has about 10 spaces. The whiskey of the week only has about 6 spaces left. I have well over 50 members in that club. And then the tequila club has plenty of openings in it. We're known a lot more for our whiskey. We have a pretty extensive tequila selection, pretty decent bottles. I usually try to keep more añejo, extra añejo, only because they're a little bit sweeter, and that's my personal profile and preference taste. But our tequila collection's decent for most places here in town. And then our locker club. And our locker club is almost full. I think I have one locker on the top row that's available, and I think I have 2 on the bottom row, and then everything else is full. So I think I only have 3 lockers. I am commissioning 15 more to be built. I was just texting with Colin, my welder, today, and he's looking at putting in 15 more lockers for me where our wine fridge is. So I'm potentially going to be moving my wine fridge to the back because, I mean, we're mostly known for whiskey. We'll do a couple bottles of wine a month. Usually when we're doing bottles of wine, it's 2 or 3, 4 at a night, and then we won't touch the fridge for 3 days. So I'll just move it to the back area behind the kitchen, because we have a little bit of storage space back there where I can put the fridge, and then I don't have to, then I can put something out on the floor that's going to make me more money. As soon as I run out of locker space, I mean, at reoccurring income, why not add another $1,500 a month so rent's paid before we open the door?
No, I think it's fantastic. Listen, I love your thought process, right? You didn't start out as a restaurant owner. You started out just as an entrepreneur, that business guy.
Essentially,
and, yeah. And so I love that aspect. I said this, you're successfully managing a couple of different businesses, and I struggle to successfully manage one. And
you call it successfully. I call it surviving.
Well, listen, it looks good. Okay, let's say that. What do you think's the key?
Balance, work, home balance. I could get consumed in a day, and like I told you, sometimes I'll go down. I used to be going down to work at 8:30 in the morning, and I would get there at 8:30 in the morning, and I would be there until 10 or 11 o'clock at night every single day, Tuesday through Saturday. Right. Well, Saturdays I wouldn't necessarily go in until like 4, depending on what was going on, but it was very consuming, and I had to learn in the last probably 6 months that there's a lot that's involved in making sure that your mental health and your physical health is above all an aspect that you have to take care of. You can easily get consumed in work and spend 10 to 16 hours a day doing the stuff that I'm doing.
Sure.
But it's more important for me that in the morning, instead of going down there at 8:30 and having that time from 8:30 to 11, now I'm going to the gym 4 days a week. So Tuesday through Friday, I'm down at the gym. I'm taking a VTL class to make sure that I'm taking care of my physical and mental health in that aspect. And then also having that work-home life balance where I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. And it's kind of cool because not a lot of people that have jobs can just be like, yeah, you know what, I'm taking Thursday off for my daughter's birthday, and we took her to Disneyland. So if you're listening from my daughter's school, she had a doctor's appointment, a really long one. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, it was her birthday, and I was like, what do you want for your birthday, sweetheart? Because if I'm busy at work and I don't, it may be, I may go 2 days without seeing them sometimes. If they go to bed at 8 o'clock and I'm not getting home until 9, I might not see them that night. And what that means is I saw them in the morning, and then I don't see them that night. I see them again in the morning, potentially in another evening before I get back to seeing them. Sure. So if it's going to be any kind of extended period of time like that, the one thing that I found that I really makes my heart happy is to make sure that I can spend that quality time. It's not necessarily about quantity time. I mean, you can spend time with your kids at home, but if you get home from work and you sit down on the couch and you're on your phone and you drink a beer and you're not paying attention to them and they're just running around and you're like, hey, be quiet, knock it off. I'm trying to relax and decompress from my day. Right. What quality time are you really spending with them?
Sure.
It's quantity time. But to take that time and go, hey, let's sit down and play a board game. Let's play Candyland. I mean, my 6-year-old, she was 5, beat me, my wife, and my 8-year-old son in Catan. I don't know. I mean, your listeners probably, do you know what Catan is?
I don't.
So it's a strategic board game. Stratego It's a combination between Stratego and Monopoly, if you know what those games are.
I do.
So there's strategy involved in it. There's thought processes. Every single move you make, every single trade you do. She's 5 years old and she beat me. I'm 36 years old. And this 5-year-old beat me at a strategy game.
Well, you're either really slow or she's really fast.
But it's about that quality time. We've played the game, and it took her, I mean, obviously 10 to 12 times of playing the game to understand the game, to start understanding the strategy.
Sure.
But I mean, she's 5. Like, it's amazing. My 8-year-old's beat me before too. And I expect it out of him because he's smart. But that was a surprise. That was a sleeper there.
That's
So
good. I agree with you.
I love that quality time, that just making sure that it's quality time that you're spending with them, not necessarily quantity.
Yep. No, I think you're absolutely right. And by the way, I appreciate what you just said. And I've failed miserably at that at times, by the way, as a CPA, with a very, very active tax practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
During tax season, we tend to
March to April, you're gone to the world for
Sure.
15,
Yeah.
18 hours a day.
Yeah, February 1st to April 15th. I mean, it's typically we just work a lot of hours. And so it's just one of those things. And so it was always tough when the kids were growing up because I'm the disciplinarian in the house, right? I'm the one that, hey, we're going to go do this. Mom's on the lighter side. And so the rules kind of changed when I was gone for 2.5 months. And then I would come back in the house on April 16th and go, hey, what about this? Hey, we're doing that. They're like, who are you? We don't do your rules. And so it was always interesting. And so you definitely need that balance. And I'm guilty of not having that much balance. Before we get into kind of start to close this out, we always have some kind of rapid fire questions when we kind of close this out. Is there anything else you want to tell us about the restaurant or any of the clubs or anything else that you're doing?
The locker club, the portion of that's the only thing I didn't touch on, like specifically club wise. I have 3 spaces. We'll have 15, hopefully in probably 2 or 3 months, we'll have 15 more spaces. But that club is $100 a month. It allows you to bring in up to 3 bottles a month because they're corkage fees, essentially, is how we're doing it. Right. So you're paying a small amount for your actual space membership, and then you're paying for corkage fees. So you're allowed to bring in your own bottles. We also have bottles that you can purchase from the restaurant to put into your locker. But essentially, every time you come and visit, you could come down with your clients, your customers, and you can say, hey, I have a locker down at CASK Strength. Let's go down there for drinks. You don't have to order food. You come down. Every time you pull a bottle out of that locker, there's no charge. You want a drink made with that? Say you have a nice bottle of whiskey and you want some old fashions and you want your clients to try your old fashions. I don't charge you for it. There's not like a, hey, $2 charge per old fashioned. There's not a $5 charge to pull your bottle out of your locker. It's $100 a month. So if you're utilizing it, you could spend $100 a month and not spend another penny on pours and go down 2 or 3 times a week and entertain your clients. Now, obviously for me, it's better when you spend money with me outside of that $100.
Sure.
So a lot of times people come in and they'll have dinner. They'll bring their clients to dinner, but they don't have to worry about paying for drinks at that point because you can keep a bottle of whiskey in there, you can keep a bottle of vodka in there, and you can keep a bottle of rum in there or tequila. You can, if you're putting vodka and if you're putting vodka, whiskey, and tequila in there, you can make 30, 40 different drinks easy out of the base stuff that's in there and cover the aspect of what most people would want. And then it's a business write-off for you. You don't have to worry about that portion of that expense, and you can come in and entertain people, whether it's just for drinks and a happy hour or whether it's for a full-on meal. You're not suffering as another business owner with a very expensive expense. You may spend $100, $150 a month and entertain, 8 to 10 customers a month just by taking them out for drinks afterward.
That's a great idea. Definitely some value into that. So let's move into some questions at the end if we could.
Sure.
So you're truly an entrepreneur and got a lot of great ideas. And so, we talked about it. You started your previous life kind of as a photographer and then ended up with that wedding venue and then obviously had to have that license. So, I love the fact of I love your creativity and the way that your mind works. So you're definitely that entrepreneurial individual with a lot of creativity about you. Who was that influence in your life? So somebody in your background was that influence to kind of that you've learned from and influence you in that way. Tell us about a couple people.
There's one person that when I first started talking to, kind of getting my feet wet in this, it was Michael Manji. And I haven't talked to him in years, but he was one of the pinpoints that kind of guided me in the right direction. So that was one of the people. And then quite honestly,
that's from Manji Landscaping.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was him and his brother.
Okay.
So the other was just working for people that wasn't myself. Honestly, and I know this is going to sound super arrogant, but I hate when people tell me what to do. And when you work a 9-to-5 job, you're working for someone else. I worked for the county. I worked at juvenile hall for a while. And even though I was telling the kids what to do, there's people telling me what to do.
Sure.
And it ended up being a thing of, I just can't stand the confinement of not working for myself. And I don't like being told every single day, day in and day out, be here at this time, do this, do that. I feel like I'm a little bit more of a free spirit than that.
I was going to say, you like the freedom.
And that's essentially the driving force behind everything I'm doing, is to be able to be free, so that if I want to take my daughter to Disneyland on her birthday, I'm going to do it.
Sure. No, listen.
Nobody can tell me no.
Yeah, I love it. And Brian, by the way, I always say I have 1,000 bosses, right? And because I look at every client that I have that in essence is my boss. And so, they don't get to design my business per se, but in reality they do, right? Because we're trying to serve them appropriately. And so we make changes to the business model to ultimately serve people's needs in the right manner. And so it's not, it's not individually like I have to show up at 8:00 every day and somebody say, hey, be there at 8 and leave at 5 or whatever. But I do have, what I believe to be a lot of bosses. So, but I get the freedom aspect of it though, right?
You do. Yeah. The one big difference though, is because everybody's looking to you as the one that they need you, and they need your attention, and they need your brain.
Sure.
At my place, I have a manager. I have a great manager in place that when I leave, I know that everything's being taken care of. And while people love to see me down there, I don't need to be the one making their drink.
Sure.
I can. When I'm down there, sometimes I will. But design-wise, the business will function without me.
If money was no object, and you could build that monster business conglomerate, whatever it is, right? So just, what kind of one business model, you could go one direction and money's really no object. What would that be?
One of the things that really kind of, and my mind is all over the place all the time, I really love the technology aspect of smart homes and how automation works. And just for fun, like just as a passion, to go in and be like, all right, cool, I'm going to design a smart home from, what you have to where you walk up with your cell phone and your door unlocks, your front door unlocks. You walk in, your lights turn on for you automatically. And there's so many different technology-based things that are coming out with smart home stuff tied to Apple, stuff tied to Google.
Sure.
They're just all over the place. But money being no object, start up just a random business. I think it would be really cool to start a smart home business that you could go to, these $1 million homes and go, hey, I can automate everything at home for you and you'll have the coolest house on the block.
Sure.
Like that just seems fun to me.
Sure. You know what? And by the way, I think that's coming, right? I mean,
absolutely.
It's here and it's coming to various degrees. So, all right, last question. If you could turn back time and beat yourself in the head, that 18-year-old kid, you said you're 36, and so go back to 18, and you could go back and brainwash yourself at 18 to do something maybe differently than you did, what would that advice be to yourself?
So I know exactly what it would be. I would invest a little bit more into stock market and learning how to do that aspect of that, and taking really what Mr. Thiessen in economics class taught us that I didn't pay attention to and didn't learn appropriately, that I'm now teaching my 8-year-old son, saying, hey, for every A you get on your report card, I'm going to give you $20, but you're going to put it into the stock market.
Sure.
And I want you to win some and I want you to lose some, and I want you to learn what it is to win and lose. I want you to think logically through what you're investing in, because at 18, I'd have been dangerous.
Yeah, sure.
If I actually paid attention to that and put my money into that, I would have been dangerous.
Sure. Yeah. Listen, I think too many people at 36 or 46, they don't really understand that, right? And certainly not at 18. If you could go back and beat yourself upside the head and really start to understand that and get good at that at a young age, is certainly a way to accumulate a lot of wealth. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do that? Give us a phone number of the restaurant and the website.
Oh, they won't ever get a hold of me on the phone number to the restaurant. I answer it very rarely. And even when I am there, I'm not there. It's a screening process. My
well,
manager knows.
Yeah, well, I don't know that they're after you, by the way, but I got to tell you, it's listen. I think what you've done is fantastic, and I think we have a lot of listeners that would enjoy the experience. So.
Quite honestly, I manage all of our social media stuff. So if they message us on Facebook or Instagram, it's me that's responding.
Okay.
I'm the one who filters all that, responds to it. So everything is at CASK Strength Bar, CASK Strength Bar, Facebook, Instagram.
Perfect.
All the main stuff that we have accounts for is all at CASK Strength Bar. And that's the easiest way to get a hold of me specifically.
Sure.
I monitor all the messages coming in through Instagram, through Facebook. I try to respond to comments and stuff when we make posts on social media. But that's the best way really to get in contact with us. The restaurant phone number is 661-322-7665. We don't do reservations, but if somebody wanted to know, hey, are you guys packed to the walls? Like, is there a chance of me getting in? Are there tables available tonight? Just give us a call and we can say, hey, look around the restaurant because we can see it from anywhere.
Sure.
So yeah, I got a 4 top, a 6 top, an 8 top. I have 2 tops, whatever it is you guys are looking for. Tell me the party size and we can see what's available.
No, it's perfect. Listen, you have a fantastic story, by the way, and you really do. And so I love small business entrepreneurs, and you have a fantastic story. So thank you for coming in and sharing with us today.
I really appreciate you bringing me down to let people hear about it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
This show has been brought to you by the Law Office of Kyle Jones, Troy Burton with the Lynn Company, CPA John Duffield, Scott Hansen Real Estate Lender, broker and investor, Dave Plivlich, President and CEO of the Marcom Group and MarcomBranding.com, and Amanda DiGiacomo, President of Atlas Financial Solutions. You've been listening to the Our 2 Cents podcast. Check out the show notes for links and more information about the show. Also visit our website at our2centspodcast.com or catch us on Instagram at Our 2 Cents Podcasts. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and share with others.